Readers,
reviewers,
countrymen,
lend us your ears. Hello and welcome today. I'm Will. This is my brother Ed. Together we make the Brothers Gwynne. And in this video we're going to be chatting about what the channel's about, what we love to read, and what you may find if you follow these videos.
We watched our old intro and it was like watching just two tadpoles at work, and it was terrible.
It was atrocious.
It was horrible. So we need to do a new intro. We'll just wrap up basically what we do on the channel.
Yeah, to be fair, we do. And the video we did before, we've been doing BookTube now for 3 years. And so hopefully in that time we've improved a teensy tiny bit.
Even though people still call us Beavis and Butthead.
It is true. We have been known to be called Beavis and Butthead.
But without further ado, we are Papa John Gwynne's sons.
Yes,
in case you didn't know, lots of people still aren't aware, but we are his sons.
But that does not make us biased when we say we love his books.
No, but unless he pays us, obviously, to say that we love them.
Yeah, but we're not meant to mention that bit.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Anyway, should we talk about our favourite Papa Gwynne book?
My favourite Papa Gwynne book has to be the first book of the Bloodsworn saga, the newest trilogy, which is The Shadow of the Gods. I love Vikings. I'm actually a Viking reenactor, and The Shadow of the Gods just perfectly captures that kind of Viking mythology, as well as the kind of the tone of the sagas, which is very exciting for me, and I love it.
And my favourite is Ruin, Faith in the Fallen, of course. I grew up with this series being written, and so there's that extra dose of sentimentality. And I just think Ruin has many of my favourite moments in terms of the battle sequences and the character moments as well. Some very brilliant quotes in here. 2 for vengeance, 1 for love, being one of them, which is just iconic Papa Gwynne. And also, Ruin has the greatest duel of all time, in my opinion, and I don't think that will be swayed anytime soon.
It is the dote. It is the dote. And obviously, we love reading fantasy. We love reading all sorts of other genres as well. But there's a key theme with all those books, is that we like to be ruined by them, crushed.
It's true.
Have our emotions thwarted,
just thrown out the window, trampled, crushed.
So yeah, that's good. And Ruin definitely does that.
It does. And so now we're going to talk about we read a wide variety of books, a wide variety of genres. And so we're quickly going to go through a book from each genre that we love, that we do cover on the channel, some more than others, such as fantasy and historical fiction. But we do talk about so many books, so let's dive into it.
The biggest kind of genre that we read must be fantasy. My favourite series that isn't by Papa Gwynne in the fantasy genre has to be The First Law by Joe Abercrombie. I think it's such a fantastic blend of character, with like kind of grim, gritty humour as well, that will make you laugh even though people are being tortured, which is
Lord Grimdark.
Kind of a juxtaposition for us, really, isn't it? I feel a bit sick in the head, but Joe Abercrombie makes you feel that way, and he does it on purpose. So yeah, if you like The First Law, give us a sub, because we talk about that a lot,
and we actually had the pleasure of interviewing Joe Abercrombie.
Yeah, when we spoke to Joe.
Oh, the name dropping. Sorry about that. But mine is the Silmarillion. I just love diving into the history of Wales. I love epic landscapes.
I love family trees.
Wide histories. Yes, I do love the family trees
Books
as
with
well.
little plot.
And the Silmarillion, boy, Ed is not the biggest fan of the Silmarillion, but
this is the fantasy Bible, and you have to read it to get your fantasy cards, don't you?
It is true, and I'm waiting for my fantasy card to arrive any day now.
I thought you were going to choose Life Ships for your favourite fantasy.
Oh yes, I have not read Live Ships in the Realm of the Elderlings, and Ed makes many jokes about that. Supportive brother.
And our next biggest genre is historical fiction. My favourite historical fiction book has to be Dreaming the Eagle by Manda Scott. This is a quartet about Boudica and her half-brother Ban. So it's looking at the Celts, the Romans, and all sorts of things in between. It's full of heartbreak, full of joy, full of hope, but it will also crush you. Again, it ruins you.
It really does. And then I have the Warlord Chronicles by Bernard Cornwell, some Arthurian literature, which is historical fiction based in the Dark Ages. I love Arthurian legend. I love Giles Christian's series. I love the Warlord Chronicles. I love the BBC programme of Merlin. Anything with Arthur on it, I will be picking it up.
I thought you meant the one with Sam Neill.
I love that as well. I love that as well. But yeah, it's just anything with Arthur, just point me towards it and I will be there. So yeah, that is my historical fiction pick. Bernard Cornwell at his very best, in my opinion, in this trilogy.
So we do read a lot of fantasy, we read a lot of historical fiction, but we do like a palate cleanser in between. Usually we dive into a little bit of fiction. So for me, my favourite fiction writer has to be the GOAT, Cormac McCarthy, and his favourite book that I've read is Blood Meridian. I love westerns, and I love the way that Cormac McCarthy writes, the kind of the rugged terrain, the rugged people, full of dark deeds and
lots
beautiful,
of rugged things,
visceral language as well. So yeah, Cormac McCarthy is a favourite of mine.
And I'm also talking about Cormac McCarthy with The Road, the post-apocalyptic The Road, which is about a relationship between a father and his son, and that makes it sound a lot happier.
How touching!
Yeah, it makes it sound
joyous.
A lot happier than it actually is. But extraordinary read. I'm sure I don't need to describe it to many people. It's exceptional.
Not only do we read trad published books, we also read some indie books and self-published books. So a recent favourite of mine has to be Dr. Fantasy, Dr. Philip Chase's The Way of Adan. This is book one of the Adan trilogy, and I love the way that Philip writes. He has this kind of homage to Tolkien as well as Papa Gwynne. It's like an amazing blend of Lord of the Rings and David Gemmell, and it's just one of my favourite series out there.
And I have got The Sword of Kaigan, which... we did a review of this recently on the channel because I just adored it. It's a standalone. I believe that in a few years there may be more, but not at the moment.
So.
At the moment, it's a standalone with these characters. It's absolutely exceptional. It's very unique. It subverts your expectations. I think it is freed by being self-published. It's not limited by those tropes and the beats of traditional fantasy, which, whilst exceptional and can be done brilliantly, I love how this is so different, and it just blew me away. If you haven't gathered already, we are character-driven readers, and this is a character-driven book, and many of the books that we're talking about today are.
Very nice. And as I said earlier, I love westerns. I actually can't find my Larry McMurtry collection. I've obviously loaned them out to a friend.
Doing your duty.
To get them back, but Charles Portis's True Grit is one of my favourite westerns. If you've seen the films, you know how great it is because the films are very faithful to this book. But the western genre is one of my favourites. There's always these quirky characters at odds against this landscape that is battering them, and it's always riveting. It's always full of these interesting characters, which, as Will said, that's what we always love to read in a series. It's very human, but it feels very alien at the same time, and that's one thing I love about the western genre.
Very nice said. And I have got some horror, mix of dark comedy and murder mystery with Horns by Joe Hill, the son of Stephen King. This is an exceptional book about a man who wakes up with horns on his head, which is not your usual day-to-day circumstance. But he realises these horns give him certain powers where people start revealing the truth to him. And I love this journey throughout Horns. I love books that... This is another standalone. I'm more of a series person myself, but it's interesting looking at my favourite books. Quite a few are standalones, and so when a standalone's done well, it can absolutely just blow me away, and they stick in my mind so vividly, such as Horns and The Sword of Kaigan, which I talked about before.
And then a quick recent favourite of mine must be Christopher Buehlmann's The Daughter's War. This is a masterpiece of fantasy. It blew me away. It made me see goblins and crows and ravens in a completely different light.
And then I have Jade City. This is actually the Broken Binding Special Edition. And I work for the Broken Binding part-time. They're an awesome bookstore who do amazing special editions. And this is one of those. And
You're living the dream.
They are very dangerous for my bookshelves because they're filling up pretty quickly. I love that this is very different fantasy. The modern take, it kind of threw me off a little bit at first, but then I ended up adoring it. And I love how unique this is, and I need to power on with the series.
As you can tell, we do read a lot of different genres. I think one thing you'll see on the channel is that we read a whole variety of genres. I also love manga at the moment. I've been reading Berserk and Vinland Saga, so you might see those crop up in some videos. But we love a TBR video. We usually have about 25 million books on each video, just so if we don't read them all, then we can be a bit of a mood reader. At least we read some of them.
Some flexibility.
Exactly. And we always have a top 10, which becomes a top 13, a top 20, a top 50. We love talking with other booktubers as well as authors. And we're very excited for the new release of Papa Gwynne.
Of Fear of the Gods. Yes, we are. So Ed's covered most of what we have on this channel. We have top 10 videos, chats with other booktubers, chats with authors, reviews, just random topics as well, such as books that we think are underhyped and things like that. So things that just kind of grab our attention, often influenced by the books that we've recently read. So there'll be more Greek content on the channel over the next few weeks, because you've read a lot of ancient Greek books, mythology or historical fiction, haven't you? And I've read a few as well. And so of course we're influenced a little bit by that. And yeah, it's constantly changing, but what stays the same is that we read and read and read. And
so quickly, a little bit about us before we wrap up the video. I am Ed. I'm 27.
Ooh, Ed.
And he said 6. That would be nice.
Wow.
I'm 27. I'm a primary school teacher, so I spend my day trying to stop children from stabbing each other with sharp objects. And then at the weekend, I'm a reenactor, so I spend my weekends stabbing people with sharp objects. And that's really it about me. I've got a lovely girlfriend, Sadie, who regularly appears in videos, as well as my daughter, Iris, as well. And we're all big readers over at the Brothers
Family Gwynne are a big reading family. And I'm Will. I'm currently a student. I'm at university studying English and history at Durham University. I like to think my job is also annoying Ed, but that, it doesn't sound very good when you tell people that.
The best at that.
Thank you, Ed. That is lovely.
Best.
Thank you so much. But yeah, and at uni, it's really opening up to reading a lot of different books, because they're put in your reading lists. You have to read them. And so I found a lot of new favourites. I think we also wanted to talk about today Beowulf, because recently, Beowulf and the sagas all together, because when I read Beowulf, before I dived in, I thought, oh, this can be very difficult. I need to kind of activate my mind to its fullest to make the most of it, to understand it and comprehend it. Same with the sagas. But then I was so surprised how accessible and easy to read it was, and the sagas were as well.
I did tell you to stop reading the Old English edition, because you can't read Old English.
That's probably...
So that is what helped you.
Although I am learning Old English this year.
That is cool.
Can
you give us a quick verse?
I can't, because I haven't started learning Old English yet. So thanks for that, Ed.
You can't mention it till you know
sorry,
a phrase.
That is true. But yeah, so I really think something I'm really advocating on this channel is diving into the sagas and Beowulf. And so there we go. That is a quick little introduction to the Brothers Gwynne. Myself, Will, my brother Ed, talking about videos you might see on the channel, what we've been influenced by, and the books that we adore. Just a little taster to what you may see on the channel.
And will the viewers come back?
Maybe.
We shall see.
That's something you hear on the channel a lot.
In the meantime, stay safe, happy reading, truth and courage, the Brothers Gwynne.
The Brothers Gwynne.